Hey guys, what's going on? Rodolfo here, and as you may have noticed, there's a global pandemic going on. So with that, there's a lot of working from home going on. Lots of companies are adopting it, from giants like Microsoft, even Apple with all its secrecy is adopting it, to small companies, public jobs and everything else. So I thought I might share my experience with that. I spent the entire year of 2018 working from home, got a job in the beginning of 2019, which was an office job, and then around the end of last year, beginning of December, I started working from home again. And first of all, I feel very fortunate that this whole situation didn't impact me personally as much as it has a lot of other people. Working from home is something that I really enjoy. I do struggle a bit with concentrating in an office environment, especially open offices where people were constantly going from one place to another and talking near you. So working from home is something that, in regards to sitting down and coding, it does help me a lot. But I do understand that for some people who may have their spouse also working from home and kids, it may be a little more complicated. And this is the first point that I want to address. If this is the first time that you are having any experience, any contact with working from home, I just want to say that this is not normal working from home. Because normal working from home means you are working from home, but the kids are at school. You can get out of the house anytime you want. It's different than the situation that we are all going through right now. So just keep that in mind in regarding to maybe wanting to try this again in the future. Many companies are experimenting with working from home right now, and some of them might say, hey, this actually works. We might have this as a policy going forward. So maybe in the future, if you're given the chance to work from home again, don't think of this experience to judge whether you want to try it again or not. But since I have been doing this for a while, I thought I might share a few of the things that I've picked up along the way and that helped me to be more productive while working from home. So the first thing that I would recommend is you should try as much as possible to have your own space. If you already have a home office set up, that's great, that's the best, but maybe you don't. But if you do have a guest bedroom, which is probably gonna be empty, you're not probably going to be receiving any guests, and maybe you can adapt that to be a home office space. Maybe you can only do it in your room. But the important part here is working from the kitchen or the living room with kids running around and wanting your attention all the time. That's going to be a little complicated for your productivity. So what you should try to do is, as much as possible, have a place where you can just close the door and be able to sit down and work and concentrate. And this is because, especially if you always worked in an office, you tend to think about work as a place and not a mode that you are in. What you should try to do is start to think more like, okay, now I'm in work mode, now I'm in home relax mode. And I think that having a separate space where you have a desk, your computer, your work stuff laid out, that helps get into the mindset where, like, okay, now it's work time. The second thing is, if there is anyone else in the house, you should let them know that you were not to be interrupted. Having your own place, as I said, helps with that. You can lock the door so small kids don't just barge in while you are in a video conference meeting. But it's not just kids. Everyone in the house should understand that you are not actually home. So unless it's an emergency, something that they would call you even if you were at work, then yeah, it's okay to interrupt you. But aside from that, they have to understand that you being physically present in the house doesn't mean that you are available. And you should try to enforce that as much as possible. I've seen a bunch of examples in the internet the past few days of people taping all kinds of different notes to the door to remind everyone not to knock unless it's urgent. So I think this one is very important. The least you're interrupted, the better. My next tip is also regarding this concept of being in a work mode. And here's the thing, even though you are home, you have the freedom to work in your pajamas or something, you should absolutely not do that. It's fine to be a little more comfortable, you don't need to wear shoes, but I do think it's helpful if you take a shower and dress the same way that you would dress if you were going to work in the office. And that's for two reasons. First, because I think it helps you get into that work mode, but also if you need to do any meetings where you need to have a camera on, if it's a video conference, it just looks better, it gives a better professional look. If you're well dressed, if you have a neutral kind of background, it's not messy and everything around you. Especially if your boss is old-fashioned and this is the first time that they are trying anything regarding working from home. It's good to give a good impression that everyone is taking it as seriously as possible. So now that we've talked a lot about environment related tips, let's talk a little bit about tools. The first thing I would say is if you're using your personal computer, if it's not a computer that was issued by your company and that you took home, I would advise you to create a different user account. So what I did when I first started was I had just one user set up on my computer because nobody else uses it. But once I started working for the company that I'm working for now, I added a different user with the company name. This user account is going to have all of the stuff that I'm going to need for work. It's going to have the email account that I used, the saved login accounts to websites that I need to use for work, and it just doesn't get confused with my personal stuff. So I have a personal Bitbucket account with my projects in there, and I have another account with my work email to access repositories that are work related, and I don't have to be switching between them, having two things set up, maybe, I don't know, committing code to the wrong repository, the wrong account. So I think it's very helpful if you have different configurations in users. The next thing regarding tools is you should log out of every social network. If you have just done the last step, which was create a new user, you should be all set. That user should not be logged into anything, but if it is, then I think it's a good idea to log out of everything. Social networking during work hours usually is already a good source of distraction, but especially right now with all the stuff that's going on, I think it's just even worse. And the same goes for checking news. It's good to be informed. It's good to know what's going on around you, especially rules regarding lockdowns or what time anything might be open could change. So it's good to be informed and know about all that, but I don't think it's healthy to be plugged in all the time and know everything about what's going on, because it can be overwhelming. A lot of the news that we have been seeing the past few weeks are not very good, to say the least. So that can take a toll on your mood, on your motivation levels, and just mess with your productivity in general. So I think it's a good idea to just set specific times where you're gonna check news, where you're gonna check social networks, and preferably do that after the workday is over. So one of the things that could help with that is if you're using a Mac with Catalina, you can use screen time settings to block access to news sites or social networking sites. If you're using something else, there is Rescue Time. There are a lot of tools. I can link some down below where you can set specific times or just completely block a few websites or apps. So I think it's a good idea to make use of those and just block things that can get in the way of you getting concentrated to do your work. Same goes for your phone. Ideally, you should leave it far from you. It doesn't have to be in the other room or anything like that, just some place where it's not within arm's reach. So what I usually do is I have iMessage on the Mac and WhatsApp, and if anyone tries to call, it's going to ring on the Mac as well. I'm not going to be unreachable or anything like that, but at least it makes it harder for you to give in into the temptation of reaching for your phone and just checking Twitter real quick, checking Instagram real quick. My last thing regarding tools is notifications. It's no secret that they can be a very good source of distraction. You're concentrated in the zone and then something beeps or buzzes or whatever, and then you're just out of it. So as I just said, I do have iMessage and WhatsApp desktop, but I don't have sound and banner notifications enabled. And same goes for Slack. So what I like to do is I leave the red badges that can show up on the dock, on the icon, just so I can quickly glance and see that there's something new going on in there and that I should probably look at, but I don't have sounds or anything popping up on the screen because that can be very distracting. And the same goes for my phone, which is already out of reach, but it's also in silent mode and not just, you know, beeping all the time from across the room. To me, that strikes a very good balance between being able to respond quickly to someone but doesn't interrupt the workflow that I have going on. And the last thing that I want to mention, that I want to talk about, is that you should try as much as you can to not feel lonely and isolated. And that is especially difficult right now. If it was any other time, I would say, hey, try to get out of the house as much as you can. Try to go to a co-working or work with someone else that you know that works from home from time to time. But right now that's not possible, and that's one of the differences between the normal working from home that I was talking about in the beginning of the video and working from home because you are quarantined or city is in lockdown or whatever. So I think the best thing you could do is try to get on video calls. Aside from being active with texting with colleagues and stuff like that on Slack, anytime that you need to talk to someone about something that's a little more important, maybe you need to help someone with something or go over some code together, suggest a call. Leave the camera open, see the other person while you're talking to them, share the screen so that you can work together on some piece of code or something. I think that kind of helps, and even do that with other people by calling friends, calling relatives. And one of the things that the company I work for did this week was actually on Friday, when everybody was just, you know, wrapping up and about to be done for the day, they just, you know, created a group chat like Hangouts, everybody cameras open, and just, you know, hang out, talk about stuff that's not related to work like you would do in a happy hour. May not be the ideal way to hang out with other people, but that's what we can do right now. And I think it's better than nothing when it comes to not feeling lonely and isolated. Hey, Future Rodolfo here. I was editing the video and I just saw that Thomas Frank, who is a productivity YouTuber, just started a series of videos with tips on how to improve your productivity while working from home. He has 2 videos up so far, one about how to set up your space and one about how to plan your day properly. So be sure to check it out after you're done with this video. So that's it. That's all I have for today. I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are indoors and just being safe in general. I hope everybody's healthy, and things may seem weird right now, but it will pass. Life will go back to normal. And meanwhile, I hope you liked this video. I hope you enjoyed the tips. If you have any other strategies or tips in general that help you stay productive while you are working from home, let me know in the comments. Share with everybody. Leave a like, it helps the channel. Subscribe if you're not, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.